Hi guys, everyone. Welcome to Monkeys Monday. Without wasting too much of time, so let me just start jumping into the episode. So, in this today's episode, we're gonna talk about Xamarin Forms TintImage. So, so this is exclusively for the users of Xamarin, and all this. And in this episode, we're gonna do a very less talking and do a lot of coding. So we're gonna start developing a custom view of Tint image from scratch to using it in a demo and start using it in an application. So that's what we're gonna see today. So once again, welcome all, and thank you for your continuous support. So yes. So what is Xamarin Forms Tint image is nothing but, it's about changing the color of the image in the runtime. So before we talk much, myself, I'm Harikrishnan. So I'm a Xamarin developer for about 5+ years of experience in Xamarin alone, and I'm currently working as a team lead in SI systems. And these are the details of mine. You can follow me in all the social medias, and you could follow my blogs in my official websites as well. And yes, so without wasting too much of time, let's jump in so that we could have a lot of time for coding rather than talking a lot. So yes, so today we're going to see about a little bit of minute or 2 minutes of introduction about Xamarin Forms and what all the controls available in it, and the rendering model of Xamarin Forms, and that's where we're gonna start it, and that's where we're gonna actually customize an image to be a tint image. So you're going to see about Xamarin Forms TintImage, and we're going to see a demo to create and use TintImage. So that's the plan for the day. So first, before I start, and Xamarin Forms, we all know that Xamarin Forms is a custom, like it's a cross-platform. It supports Android, iOS, UWP, and lots of other technologies nowadays as well. So it's all about having things do with less number of code. It's all about sharing code with Xamarin Forms, and that's the success I think this personally. So there are a lot of controls that are available in Xamarin Forms. So nowadays, and so yeah, there are a number of controls, like starting from a simple text block to a very complex list view, collection view. So n number of controls that are almost available for every need that we are requiring for coding in an application. So so with that introduction, so coming to the Xamarin Forms, the rendering model, like typically any view or any control or any page in Xamarin Forms is rendered using a mechanism which is shown here. So let's take an example of Xamarin Forms image control. So since we're going to see about the tint image in this session, so how the Xamarin Forms image works is, so Xamarin has the renderer for every platform that actually loads in the native view of every image. So let's take an example of Xamarin Forms image control. You could see that there is an image renderer on all the platforms, Android, iOS, and UWP. So what this native renderer does is, it in turn loads the corresponding native view, which is image view in terms of iOS, and UI image view in terms of UI image view in terms of iOS, and image view in terms of Android, and control Windows start controls that image in terms of iOS. So with that introduction, so we're gonna see about TintImage today. So what is TintImage is basically it's an extended image that allow us to customize the color of the image in the runtime. So basically, none of the like currently the Xamarin Forms images does not allow us to customize its foreground in the runtime. So that's one of the short disadvantage that I could see in the recent times when I was working with one of my projects. So just today, I'm going to share my experiences and how handy this tint image control was in my applications in production, and I hope this will be helpful for you as well. So images are a very crucial part of applications. So the navigations, usabilities, and branding. So they can be shared across platforms, and they can be loaded specifically for each platform, and they can be downloaded for display as well. So however, so as I said, currently the changing of color in an image is not possible. So that it's not a huge drawback, but still, having that would save a lot of memory. Having that would save a lot of efforts in case of duplications in codes. So with that problem in hand, we thought of writing a custom view, and that is the result of this session. So yes, so how Xamarin Forms TintImage works is, so similar to the structure of Xamarin, so we just going to customize the render of each platform to load the same image view. What we are going to do is we're going to take advantage of the native properties. So Android and iOS by default has the tinting functionality in the native, and so we're going to take advantage of that. For UWP, we're going to tweak in some code with some references, and that's how we're going to achieve the tint image for Xamarin Forms. So in this post, you'll find answers for the below questions, like how to create a tint image in Xamarin Forms, how to use them in a Xamarin Forms application pages. So this is the area that we're going to focus, the renderer part. So that's going to play a big role in getting the tint working. So this would work fine even runtime as well. So as I said, what is a tint image? It's an extended image that's used to customize image color. It supports all the 3 platforms. And the most important thing is that it's responsive. It just loads faster and reusable. The images now can be reused wherever possible. There are certain cases where we might actually need the same image with different colors. So in such cases, images are highly reusable. Even in case of theme changes, when you change a theme from dark mode to light mode, or from having a different custom theme in your applications, you wanted your app to load instantly. So this would be handy. So let's code the Xamarin Forms tint image without wasting too much of time. So in this demo, what we expect in this demo is, creating Xamarin Forms application. So we'll create this application, we'll write a custom view for tint image, and we'll look into the concept of custom rendering, how it works in Xamarin Forms, and get the tint image working in all the 3 platforms. And then use that tint image into the Xamarin code and get that rendered and see how it works. So that's going to be the plan for the day. Let's jump into the code. Fine. So here we go. So just in case if someone is new to Xamarin Forms, all you have to do is just open your Visual Studio, create a new project, give mobile app for Xamarin Forms, give next, and give whatever name you want for your project, and click create. I'm not doing it right now because I have every setup ready for doing this custom image now, just to save time. All right. So the Xamarin Forms solution is ready. We have all the 4 projects loaded in the solutions. So just check whether we have everything set up. So we don't need anything extra except for UWP. We need one plugin, so which is this Composition Pro Toolkit. I have got this really installed. You could check that here. So in the NuGet org. So I have configure that for our applications. So fine. So all we got to do is now just start coding. So that's what we're going to do. Fine. So first, let me close this. Yeah. First, let me just create a class here and name it as TintImage.cs. Fine. All right. So we have created a class, and let's make it public. Fine. So this class should extend from image. So which in turn, right, fine. So all we're going to do is we have extended an image and written a custom view, which is a custom image tint image. And we are going to create one property in it. So what it is we are going to create a bindable property called tint color, so that Let me first create the bindable property for it. Bindable property, tint color property equals bindable property dot create name of tint type of tint image. All right, I'm sorry. So this should be something type of color with default type of tint image, and the default value to be color dot transparent. Yeah, that's it. So we go with that. Oh, I'm sorry. Fine. So here, then I'm going to return the of color type, tint color properties value. All right, the set. I'm just going to set to value for this tint color property. Value. Fine. So that's it. So we have created our custom view as of now. So this is a tint image. We're gonna now get this working in all the platforms. That's what we're gonna do next. So all we need is a renderer in all the three platforms. So let's first go by starting create a renderer in Android. So fine. So tint image renderer dot sequence. All right. So we have this. Let's make this public and let this be render. Fine. So for any custom render to work fine, we need it to be registered first. So that's how the custom render works in. So let me first do that. Registration, assembly colon, export renderer of type of image or type of this renderer's name, image renderer. By doing this, we are letting the Xamarin Forms know that we are going to use this renderer to render our view. Fine. So this is morning. Let's create a constructor for this to image renderer context. Right. Fine. All right. So let's do this. So all we need to do is, by default, as I said, the Android and iOS platforms have the support for tinting in their native. So we're going to take advantage of that when it comes to Android and iOS. So all we need to do is, we have to override the on element changed method here. If the new element is not null, and this native element, which is a control, is not null, then we're going to do something here. We're going to do we're gonna update the native tint color here. So let's write a separate method for that to update the tint color. So which is like, let me name it as update tint color, because we're gonna do that changing the runtime as well. So fine. So before going to the logics, let me do some basic to avoid exceptions of anything here. Um, in case the control or the element or anything is null, then let me just return without doing anything. I don't want to change the scene color, or it's fine. So here what we're going to do is just call this tint color. So fine. So what this method does on element changed, it got, this override is called whenever a native component is loaded. Whenever a native control is rendered, this component is loaded. So this happens only when the native view associated with the PCF view changes. So other than that, it's not going to fire them in there. So we may also have to override another method on element property change to get this working fine on all the cases. So before that, let's complete the logic for tinting in the Android. So let me just create. Yeah. Since this is a custom renderer, this tint image is extended from image, so I may not be able to use the element directly to access the tint color. So I have to do a casting here. So let me just do that casting element as tint image. So if this tint image is null, then let me just return it. All right, so if the tint image, yeah, dot tint color is transparent, then all we have to do is have to apply the native color filter. We have to clear the native color filter. So in Android, a color filter is something which takes care of the tinting. So when you assign a color filter, so when you assign a color, Android color to a color filter, it will change the color of the image. So we're going to just make use of that. So if the control color filter is not null, then we're just going to clear it. So this is just to know if in case of changing it runtime from some other color to transparent to get this working within this. This is actually the tinting, the applying of tinting. So all we're going to do is control dot set color filter. So this will set the color for the Android. So here we have, you can directly set the color, you can set the color filter, or we can set this in different modes. So let me just set the color. So this has to be converted to Android's color. Xamarin is very handy to give that support. So we can just using the value of the Xamarin Forms, put a dot, the to Android method will by default converted to the native color. So let me use this product.mode. Fine. So yes, we are done. So we have successfully completed creating this custom renderer for TintImage in Android. So we've just completed getting this control working in one platform, which that easy. Fine. So before I actually go and coding in Xamarin Forms iOS, let me show you the outcome of these what we see today. So this is going to be the outcome of what we are going to complete at the end of the day. Just showing it for the middle to see how things are very cool. So this is the Android part. So I have loaded an icon, which is home icon. I could be able to change that color in the runtime. I could change the size of the icons. So this is pretty much how it works in all the platforms. So this is what we're going to accomplish today. So that's why we're here. So at the end of the session, we'll run this demo on all the platforms and we'll achieve the same output. All right, fine. So without wasting time, let's jump into the iOS and again create a same renderer file there as well. So which is tint image renderer.cs. Fine. So public, as I said, from image renderer and to the namespace declarations. Let me just take it from here without wasting time. I'm just gonna do the same name here. So yeah, fine. So you don't have to write any constructor here for iOS. All you have to do is directly override the on element changed. Oh my god, I forgot to do this here. Fine, this works fine when we are loading it on the when we are launching it for the first time. To get things working fine for runtime, so we have to do this, which is dot property name equals image dot property name or dot property name equals we gotta check the tint color property. Whenever the tint color property changes, we have to change it. Whenever the source of the image changes, we have to refresh the color. Whenever the we do have one property called loading. So that denotes whether whether the image is loaded or not. When this property changes, so we have to update the tint color of the control. Yes, fine. So we're doing the runtime support as well. So similarly, we have to do the same here for iOS as well. So we just copy paste the same code here because we're gonna just use the same methods and conventions here as well. And yeah, almost the same.
Hari, sorry, actually your voice is breaking.
All right. Is it clear now?
Yeah, fine.
All right. I think it's my headphone. When I was coding, I think I turned it aside. All right. Thanks, Anbu. Thanks for reminding.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just start coding the tint color. So update tint color. So fine. If the intro, or even let's do this control dot image here. So this is the native image of iOS. So let me check the null against this, and if at all if element is null, then as we did in Android, let's return safely without updating anything. And similarly, let's use all the codes by typing every time. fine. Same conditions, just a good practice. And here comes the logic. So if image dot color is color dot transparent, then we are going to start writing. Maybe I'm not sure this is visible, so let me just zoom this. Sorry about that, I forgot it. So in iOS, so image color is controlled using the color.image property. So here we could load an image. We have various rendering mode here. So using that rendering modes and giving the color of the native color of the image, we could change the color of the iOS image, which is a built-in support in iOS. So we're going to take advantage of that. So controls image with rendering mode, so by default there. We're going to pass the rendering mode as you said, there is a always original, always template, which is going to template in the sense which is we going to customize it. Automatic is something the actual color of the image, so we're going to set that as automatic. And there is a tint color property for the native control, so we are going to set that to null. All right, so fine. Else controls image similar to transparent. Here we're gonna set it to rendering mode dot always templates. As I said, so we're gonna customize the color. So casted, so we're gonna apply the color here, which is just the tint image which we have taken here. So tint image dot color dot to UI color. All right, that's great. Fine. So we've completed coding for both Android and iOS in QuickTime. So that's it. So for both Android and iOS, we have completed writing custom renderers to get the image color changed in runtime. It's as simple as it is. So if at all, if you are targeting only for Android and iOS, this control is something which is very simple. You could just like that in a very less time, in a matter of half an hour, you could just get this loaded. Whereas things in UWP is not as easy as this is. UWP is a bit complicated. We don't have a direct support for things in UWP. We have to take support of something else when it comes to UWP. Unlike Android and iOS, we cannot just do this simple. So hence, after a lot of research, I came across this post in Stack Overflow, which suggests some ideas about changing an image color using composite effect. So, but this doesn't again help me. It doesn't work as expected to me for my scenarios. I went on further to explore on the custom composition brushes and composition. So what this does is this gives UWP gives you various ways to customize an image color. So this gives you a detailed picture of how an image is loaded in UWP. So there is a container which is placed on top of it. There'll be a visual. So this is something which is controlling the visual hierarchies of the images. So here we're going to take advantage of this and hence because of using this only we had installed the custom NuGet packages of Composition Pro Toolkit. So to get in this tint color applied for UWP. So what this basically does is, this compositor is it's an instance that allows you to, span the visual layer. So we're gonna create a visual layer above the image in exactly the same how the actual image looks and change that color in UWP so that the image color looks like changing in the runtime. So that's what we're going to do in our demo. So here you could see all this details. So I've customized things based on my requirement after analyzing a lot of works. However, the basic idea is something like this to have an effect applied in terms of applying tint color. So you can have a look on these things for more in detail knowledge about UWP tinting, or if your working or application is not targeting UWP, then you can safely ignore this. Fine, let's go back and continue our coding. So for UWP, I've already created a renderer. So fine. So as I said, the compositor is something which lets us apply the tint color in the UWP. So the compositor has a brush. So that is effect brush and surface brush. A surface brush is something which does not have any colors. It's a simple straight surface color without any uh, without any brush colors. So we're gonna use that brush color when we are setting transparent color for the UWP, and we are going to use the composition effect brush value here when we are applying tint property. The sprint visual is the place where these effects brushes are applied in. And so we'll see how things works fine. So this is going to be a little lengthy because we're going to actually do a lot. We are going to touch a lot of UWP native here. So firstly, as similar to oh, sorry, forgot to do the important thing here. All right, so fine. All right, so when an element is changed, so let the base be as it is. So if dot new element is not null, then let me just new element as image. Fine. So we've saved this tint image so that we could use this local properties elsewhere. So we are actually going to create a compositor here and the compositor generator, which will help us generate the surfaces in which we could apply the tint color. So for that, let me create a method, and then we're going to use maybe like we'll first create the required methods that we might be using here, and then come back and code here. So first, let me create the uh, compositor and create composition generator. So what this will do is now let's do this basics here. Image compositor replaces now, then let's not create this often. All right. So now this dot tint image compositor was element preview. We'll get the visual here. So here by pausing the control, we can get the visual. Then So for this, each composite dot we composite generator. Fine. Yes, cool. We have created this. So this is something which is going to do the works for us. And let's call this here. Fine. All right, so this will create the required things when it comes to loading, and we need a visual which needs to be created, and we need the effects to be created and a brush to apply on the effect when we are applying tint colors. So let's create the other items which are required for the codings. So let me first write a method for applying the tint color. So we're going to apply the tint color to the canvas. So tint color is going to be applied to the tint composition effect brush, as I said before. So you'll be using this field when we are applying tint color to the native image. So this dot tint brush dot. So it has a properties. So here we can insert, insert color for this color source dot, color, and update the color which is passed. Fine. So this will update the tint color in the runtime. So maybe then we may have to do one important thing. So which is, we may have to override the arrange override to configure the file path and create the sprint visual and this composition effect brush. So we haven't created this yet. So we have to actually create this. So for creating this, there is one thing. So we are loading an image through files, which is directly from the renderers. So then it's very easy. So the image will be the file image source. So we could fetch the file path directly. So we have to first fetch the file path for the image and then create the sprint visual for changing the tint colors and then the tint composition effect brush. So let's do that as the next work. So maybe let me put a method private void to configure path and create visual and tint position effect brush. Sorry about using a very lengthy name. Let me just do things here. Wait. We have to create this only when required. So fine. The reason we do this here is, we're going to call this method when we are arranging so that, in UWP, rather than every property changes, I'm trying to use this method in the arrange override so that this could call whenever the size changes. So hence to avoid too many executions of this method, I've put this condition checks. So then let me first find the path. So Already source is null. Let me return this. And file source is something which is coming from the .NET Standard project. So yeah, so it will be a file image source. If, if this is not, then we may have to find in the file path name manually. So if in case of using embedded images, then we may have to find in the file path, either by passing it from these Xamarin Forms. We have two options there. Otherwise, we may have to do some reflections to get this done. So maybe I'll do the logic here. So that equals dot t. So as of now, I'm considering this. This will be null when we are using it as embedded images. When we are binding the images from the view model using the image sources. So this would be the direct cases in a typical way of handling. So here we could get the image name very easily. So file source, so be the image name. This will give us the exact file name. So yes. So for here we have to do a few things. So we have two options, as I said. One thing is we could create a property in the tint image here and pass on the image name whenever we are creating the image. That would be very simple, would save a lot of time. Otherwise, we may have to reflect the we may have to find a way to reflect the images from the image source, whatever we got here. So first, let me do the easiest way. I would show you both the ways so that you could go with which way you want. And I have tried this and first go with the reflection and then thought why so much complications. Let me just name this as Tint, probably type of string here as well. Let me name it as string. Yes, string. Yes, properties. Yes, I guess do pretty much with here instead of this. Empty. Fine. So we created a hint property. So all we could do here is, we can call that renderer, like that hint path here. To say the file path. So file path equals simply we have this element source here. So let's first convert this element to the tint image. I guess we have get image dot in. Fine. So that's our file path here. So we could otherwise do it using some reflections. That is something which would be a little tricky. So let me do that as well, so that when we will do that at the last to save some time. So as so far this works fine. So I'll show the logics at the end so that it could be made use of. So yeah, fine. So what we have done here is we have found out the file path. All we have to do now is create the sprint visual and the tint composite effect brush. So that is going to apply the tint effect for us. So yes, we have to call it here. So fine. Let me just create a method. Private. It's gonna be synchronous one because right create visual and position. Let me give some short name. Brush. Fine. I have to pass in the file path UI here. So this is something which is the logic part of the UWP. Here we are going to create the sprint visual, and on top of it, we are going to have the image surface rendered on the sprint visual, and the image surface will be brushed with whatever color we want. So if it is transparent, then we'll be using the default surface brush, and then if it is some other colors, we'll apply some effect to get that color applied on the visual. Uh, yeah, on the visual as a different brush. So first, let me do the basics. Element null. Or one thing here is, as I said, we are going to call this from the arrange override. So we shouldn't be calling this when the image is not rendered or the image is not having any size. So let me put this restrictions. Just gonna return without doing anything in these cases because I might get this method hit more than once. So simple, fine. I'm going to call this. Yeah. So okay, like this. Fine. So create my visual. So my visual is the one which I'm going to see changing in the runtime. So this could be created with the help of the Tint compositor which we created at the start. So this compositor will have the create visual method. So you can see that this is something which is obtained from the composition method. So we're just making use of that. And then we're going to, by default, this visual will not be aware of what is the size of the image. So we are going to give that size. So float type. So let me round it off to float. And fine. So we have created this print visual. So as I said now, so we have to apply image surface for this. We have to create an image surface required for this visual. So first, let me create an image surface. So we have all these things defined before. So if this is null, let's create only when it is null, so that we could reuse it whenever we are changing it on the runtime. So if we have applied blue, and when we are clicking on the transparent, we don't have to create these resources again and again to use this. So since UWP has an option to refresh the UI, just like that using the element composition preview. So there is a way to set the child visual. So we just have to change the visual of the child in the runtime to get things loaded. We don't have to create it in the runtime. So if we do this, so image surface. equals, so this is an asynchronous method, so I know this since I'm just doing it Composite generate dot. Yeah, so we have to create image surface asynchronously. For this, we have to use the sorry, I'm doing it wrong. We have to pass the URI, which is coming from there, and the native size. So here the main elements width, and yeah, fine. And apart from that, image surface option. So let's give it as let's give it as default optimized. Oh, wait a minute. So foundation, yeah, fine. Okay, sorry. I didn't create the size itself here. My bad. All right. So now I created the size. So things should be fine. Oh. Ah, shit. Sorry, these things happens, especially when you're doing it in live. Fine. And then we have to do this, create the tint composite surface brush. So it's gonna be a bit lengthy process. So here, this tint composition brush. So we're going to create this twice. So this needs to be created twice. So first, let me create the tint composition surface brush. The reason is no, this surface brush is going to be used when we are applying transparent color. So this would be image compositors, the surface brush. So we need the image surface here for this. Is dot yeah. So this is for the this is the default surface brush. So I'm not applying any effects here. I'm just making use of the default surface brush as it is, so that it will be very transparent. So this can be used if at all we are having transparent in color. So if then let's apply this for the thin color when it is transparent. So thin color equals transparent. All we need to do is, we don't need the composition effect brush in case it was created earlier when changing in runtime. And we may have to update the visual brush and the element child here. So maybe I'll do one thing. I'll do a separate method. Uh-oh. So this is something which I missed here. Here, new URI of dollar symbol and a cell phone. Yeah. And colon triple slash. So let's have the something like this. URI. Sorry, this should be X. Yes, it's fine. Maybe we will see that. You'll see this later. All right. So coming here, let me write a different method. Private void girl and child based on the in brush. So which is either the surface brush or the effect brush. So let me just update that to the, as I said, we have to update that brush here to the surfaces brush. Once this is done, we can refresh the view using the element composition preview, as I said before. So it said the element child visual. So for the here in case control is the child, and the visual is the sprint visual we had created. So this would refresh uh, the visual of image for whatever color we are applying. So we are going to call this method here and ask the tint composition surface brush which is created here. So with that we are fine with transparent. So if at all transparent, all we will do is we create this print visual image surface, and with this composition surface alone, we'll set that, we'll refresh things, and we'll return. So when we are applying tint, is what we need a custom like effect brush. So instead of this surface brush, we need a different type of effect brush. So for that, we may have to create in an effect factory so that we could have a composition effect applied on it. So which is a color effect. So of the various efforts. So we're going to make use of that thing here. First, let me create that color effect here. Yeah, suggested let me use graphics effort, right? Equals new composite effect. So the mode as composite intersection of source and yeah, fine. So this will join the source and things. So this is to be here. We are going to actually give the color effect. So we are going to inform the color source effect name as, so this is the name which we had passed in here. somewhere when we yeah, color source. So color source that equals this dot tint image dot tint color dot to windows color. Fine. Waste time. Parameter as mask. All right. Fine. I guess we have some time constraint here. So first, as we pass things here, maybe I'll do one thing. I'll first complete the UI. Let's come back to this here. We may have to create an UI, something similar to this here. So this is something basic Xamarin Forms coding. So I'm just making use of the demos I already have in here. I'm just taking the same UI code I have here. Let me use it. I'll explain what I've done here. So this is something which is needed. However, I have not created a control folder. And let me create a view model. Tint view model.cs. Alright, let me just use the same code which is here. Since we are running out of time. So since these are very simple logics, C# codes. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Fine. All right. Yeah. So we have our view model and UI is ready. So all we have done here is okay, fine. Let me just copy this view model into this one. Okay, maybe I don't need this to be view model. Here it is control. Fine. All right, yeah. So let's run this. So what I've done here is, I have 3 rows and 3 columns. So I've loaded the tint image, so which I've created here. So this tint image is now mapped to Android, iOS, and UWP. So let's see the output, and then we could, meanwhile, get things ready for UWP. Maybe we will take things from here, and I'll exploit the remaining code for UWP from here. Most completed things, but still. Uh-oh, sorry. I forgot one thing, one important thing, which is images. Um, I should have put in the images here required for this demo. So let me open the Solution Explorer here. I have an image. Here, so no. The important thing here is this has to be an embedded resource. You're doing it from PC. Right. Wait a minute. Maybe there's some mistake here. Print image demo. So ours is print image live demo. Fine. Fine. So here we could see that intercool when it comes to Android. Let's run the same in iOS. So let me pick up the Pro, which is readily available. In the meantime, maybe I'll copy things from here, the UWP, and let me run that faster. Right, yes, right, fine. So for UWP, yes. So let me just replace things here. We are running out of time. So this is the reflection code which I told you before. So fine. So what we are actually doing is we're in the halfway here. So here this surface once applied, after that we have to create the composition effect which is mask, and then we have to create an effect factory to apply that composition effect. So that composition effect will be created, effect factory will be created, and using that effect factory we can create the composition brush. So that is the effect brush. So this will be applied as the tint color, as I said. So for this composition effect brush, what we will do is, for the source, which is the visual split visual, so we will mask this effect on top of that. So that's what this is done. This used to done, and here we will refresh the properties color value. And as I said, we pass this effect to apply to the visual brush, and it will get refreshed here in case. And apart from that, just one thing which we had missed here is the uh, element property change. So what we will do here is, when a property changes, so for this transparent color, when changing a color in the runtime, when we will just apply the surface brush here and things start working like cool, fine. If some other color is applied, what we will do is we will create a split visual if it is not created before, and we will apply the other procedures, like we will create the composition brushes here, and we will apply the color. So that's how it works fine. So one optimization I have done here is, I have called this visual to be created first time in the arrange override, so that not for every property change this happens. So it happens only whenever the source property changes. For any other properties like the height or width or anything else changes, this override is one which is going to be called in. So we have optimized things here. So only when valid changes occurs, so we'll change the composite brushes and the surfaces. And the spread visual is, as I said, it's a mask on top of the image what we haven't. So we have to update the size and inform the image surface that it is getting resized. So by doing that is how we are achieving our things in UWP. Okay, fine. Sorry. Let's start the project. Fine. So here, if we run in UWP, things will work fine. So the logic which I said here is this one for creating the path here. So we are as of now using the hint property. However, you could also reflect things. Here goes. Fine. I think I have missed something here. Fine. As I said here, for UWP alone, things will be working fine only when this image is available here. We cannot render an image which is outside, which requires further permissions and other things here. So what we are going to do is we could include this. This must be included as a content so that it renders just fine. So why? Because this file path will be returned with the local one, and whenever we are loading an embedded resource, we are finding the file path. So which is the MSXPX, which is parallel to the folder of UWP. So now this loads fine. So now we could understand without having the image first, you could see that the color is actually not applied. So what we do is we take an image. From that image, we'll create a sprite visual and apply the brush of that visual on top of that in the runtime. So that's how it works. When we are clicking on the default, it is actually the effect that we are seeing and not the actual images here. So we'll take the original image and apply the brush of effects on top of that. That's how UWP works. What we see here, once things get loaded, is not the actual image, but the visual of that image. So that's how UWP works. So with that, I guess we are fine with our demo. And whatever I have told here is readily available. It is already, I have published a blog on this in my website, and you can also find the source code for this in the GitHub as well, and you can take things further. So yes, and was there any queries?
Thank you, Hari. Actually, no more questions. Thank you so much for your wonderful session.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.